Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jet Li, Chuck Norris. These legends have one thing in common. None of them signed up for the fourth outing of Sylvester Stallone's over-the-top action series, The Expendables 4. Scheduling conflicts, perhaps? Or perhaps they didn't like the script. I guess we might never know. One thing is for sure, the wokesters in the access media are absolutely hating this movie. Why would they hate testosterone-filled action? Oh, wait. I may have answered my own question. I guess that's the video then. On second thought, no. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about why the woke media hates men and masculinity. Join me, dear viewer, as I dive deep into the world of the Expendables and its war on toxic feminism. Growing up in the 80s, it was all America rah rah rah. With the election of that bastard Ronald Reagan, we got the disaster that was trickle-down economics and a massive debt bubble in order to beat those evil Russians that we're still paying for today. But we also got action. Lots and lots of pure, unadulterated action. The 80s machismo was at full peak. We got such classics as Rambo, Commando, Terminator, Bloodsport, and Escape from New York. Whatever anyone says, the 80s gave us epic action movies that ultimately stood the test of time. Well, all of them except Rambo 3. That ending certainly didn't age well. Throughout all this action bonanza, one rivalry emerged high above all. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. These two were locked in such fierce competition, a competition to see who the toughest SOB on the planet was, and it was an absolute joy to watch. Like many young 80s kids, I always yearned for some massive team-up of all these action stars. It's like a crossover between the Ninja Turtles and Batman, or Marvel vs. DC, which we've sadly not yet gotten. Actually, come to think of it, we might actually get a Marvel vs. DC movie as that genre is completely past peak. But I'm glad that in 2011, I finally got my wish with the very first Expendables movie. This movie was an absolute who's who of 80s and 90s action stars. I remember seeing this flick with a friend of mine who snuck some beers into the theater for us. We had an absolute blast on that late summer Friday in 2010. The movie was a smash hit and thus necessitated a sequel. Multiple sequels. The first three Expendables movies came out in rather quick succession. We were treated to the action amalgam in 2010, 2012, and 2014. So it stands to reason that it was simply going to be a trilogy and nothing more. A Marvel team-up of sorts. Imagine my surprise and joy to hear there would be another one in 2023. I was glad to hear it, but I did question as to why. Why now? Why not back in 2016 or 2017 when the franchise was still fresh in people's minds? Well, it seems to me that the franchise was always going to be a trilogy. But since 2015, since the dark age of cinema roared into theaters, a specter has loomed large over Hollywood. The evil menace that is woke culture with all its diversity and inclusivity and useless platitudes, hand-holding, and singing Kumbaya. Well, maybe not Kumbaya because these woke bastards hate religion. Something needed to be done, and Sylvester Stallone was just the man to do it. Sly seems to possess a keen understanding of the disaster of wokeness in films and TV and its impending demise. In his Paramount Plus series, Tulsa King, Stallone plays an over-the-hill mobster going out for one last ride in the mafia. Throughout the show, he sees how pussified society has become with all this woke nonsense. But there's only so much a Paramount Plus show can do. Stallone needed to go bigger. He needed to attack toxic feminism at its root. He needed to show that masculinity isn't bad and that females can be well written, as Megan Fox's character Gina showed in The Expendables 4. As with Top Gun Maverick and Mission Impossible, audiences were given something they desperately wanted. Men who acted like men and women who acted like women. None of this ambiguous garbage here. Nothing shows this off more than the interactions between Statham and Stallone, and those between 50 Cent and Dolph Lundgren. These character interactions showed a bunch of guys poking fun of themselves. You know, how typical men used to behave before the wokesters ruined everything.
They seem to be friends, yet he speaks to him in the most profane manner.
Well, if you had read my study, you would know that this is how insecure heterosexual males used to bond.
As Sandra Bullock points out, men do behave like that, but it isn't because they're insecure, it's actually instinctual. Back in the olden days when we were roaming the African savannah, survival was of the utmost importance. Men tested other men to see who is most capable of leading the tribe. Masculine competitiveness in men is ingrained in our DNA. We bust each other's balls, mostly in good fun, but also to test who the alpha is, who the leader is, who is the most worthy of the hottest chick in the room, and who gets the best part of that woolly mammoth steak. What the woke mafia fails to understand is its own genetics, its own history, and they label it toxic masculinity because they're too fragile to compete, too weak to come up with a better argument. So when a movie shows how real men behave, these people short circuit. The access media hates this film because they think that hating on the Expendables 4 will get them brownie points in the woke Olympics and a better ESG score from BlackRock. To be fair, the movie isn't without its faults. First of all, it's way beyond its shelf life. Had this movie released closer to the first three, maybe more people would have cared. It's also the entry with the least well-known action stars. Gone are Arnold Schwarzenegger, Liam Hemsworth, Wesley Snipes, Terry Crews, Jet Li, and Jean-Claude Van Damme. The movie is also a lost opportunity to cash in on the recent successes of Tom Cruise. Why Stallone didn't approach Tom Cruise to be in this movie is beyond me. Perhaps Cruise likes being the star of his own movie. He hasn't actually been in any other really big ensemble movies that I can think of. There are also very glaring plot contrivances that didn't resonate with audiences, like the fake death of Barney Ross. This seemed a bit too convenient and one of those things that happened because you couldn't kill off the main character. It attempted the age-old story of a character's death bringing everyone together to fight for a common cause, but it stumbled in its effort as we saw the group sort of fell apart post Stallone's death, and it was really up to Jason Statham's Lee Christmas to save the day. The plot just seemed to stumble over its own feet and felt very clunky. What made the original three films so successful was their simplicity. They borrowed heavily from 80s action flicks. Rambo, Commando, and Predator all relied on very simple premises executed well. The Expendables 4 tried to get a little more complex and ended up falling flat on its face. That's not to say it didn't have its good moments. I quite enjoyed Megan Fox, even though she clearly needs to stop going to her plastic surgeon and dermatologist. Honey, stop with the Botox and Juvederm. You're ruining your natural beauty. But her character was written well enough, exhibiting only very minimal Mary Sue vibes. Gina didn't try to upstage the guys with how awesome she is. She was a team player and showed off what I've been saying in a number of my other videos, that men and women are meant to complement one another like pieces of a puzzle. All in all, The Expendables 4 isn't as bad as people in the access media are saying. It's just a lot more bland than an Expendables movie ought to be. It seemed like a tired effort that stumbled in its delivery, but it did provide audiences with one essentially important thing: anti-wokeness. We can only emerge from the dark age of cinema if we all become a little anti-woke. But what do you guys think of all this? Do you think the Expendables are past their prime? Please do let me know down below in the comments. And as always, hit that like button, ring that notification bell, and smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.